What's up, everyone, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. Our first question comes from Vladimir von Winkle Drake III and Michael Vecchio, who both ask if Omega could appear in the Book of Boba Fett.
We're getting a lot of these questions lately. Now that, The Mandalorian started to introduce a lot of that, different characters we've seen in not just the animated shows, but the books. Like, who else are we going to see? I'm skeptical of Omega. I'd be for it if it happened. But I don't know. I think we're just going to have to wait and see how this series ends. But I usually tend to lean towards, these people will be self-contained in their given stories. I lean that direction more than like they're going to be in everything.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine her showing up in Book of Boba Fett because I feel like that's like such a different project. I mean,
obviously there's a relation there.
Yeah, obviously they're like pretty close.
They don't even know each other yet, as far as we know.
Pretty close DNA. Like the showrunners are different, and I don't know, just like something about the animated characters. I don't see us going straight from this show, having a character in this show, to her popping up in the next live action show. That might be a little jarring.
I certainly think
maybe just me.
No, I agree with you. I think it's possible, depending on how the rest of the Bad Batch goes, and whatever the Book of Boba Fett is going to be about. I mean, if it's about who he considers to be family with like Fennec Shand and their connection, which Ming-Na Wen said that the Book of Boba Fett is very much about their connection, whatever that winds up being, whether it's a friendship or just a partnership or what. So yeah, if he like dives into memories of Jango Fett and maybe by then he knows of his sister, like who knows? But I would be surprised if that's what that show was about. Yeah,
it's way too early to tell. Like, we still don't know for sure if Boba Fett's going to be in Bad Batch.
Right.
It's likely.
I kind of hope so, and like that makes a lot more sense to me to move the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
But and if he does show up in the Bad Batch, then I might change my tune on Omega being in the Book of Boba Fett, because like animation is made so far out.
Yeah,
I think they had plenty of time to plan this if they want to do it, but I'm just skeptical that that's what their plan is right now.
Yeah, and plus it's like the Bad Batch is all about Omega and the Bad Batch and like their relationship. If we come out of this show and it's all about Omega and Boba Fett and their relationship, that's going to be weird.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't think they would do that if Boba Fett came into play. But I think that's a good point. If they kind of like were teasing things for a completely different series, it's a thing to balance. And why is everyone mowing their lawns today on the rainy day?
56 Landon wants to know what our favorite era of Star Wars is and which era needs more content.
Let's just real quick do our favorites. And mine is the original trilogy, the Galactic Civil War era.
Mine's the sequel trilogy.
Really?
Yeah. And it's also the area that needs more content.
I was going to say the original trilogy is the era that needs the least new content. I would go with anything like Old Republic, like even further back than the High Republic. Like that's something that,
That's true. I thought we were just going with the three trilogies.
The three big ones. I mean, I would throw the main eras right now would be Clone Wars, Galactic Civil War, whatever we call it, the sequel trilogy conflict, and then
the Reylo era.
The Reylo era, and then the High Republic. But like they keep mentioning the Old Republic, and for Legends fans, it's like that's still an era to us.
Yeah.
And you keep mentioning it. I'd like to see more there, but really, I'm kind of just like, if a new story is announced and it's not in the original trilogy, that's already kind of a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. And I don't know, like the sequel trilogy, I feel like a lot of people would agree that we hope to see more content come out of that era.
I mean, I'm especially
assuming you like this sequel trilogy era.
Right. I mean, I'm happy that like The Mandalorian is starting to dive into more of like the political landscape and the New Republic and what's that like and why did it fail to keep the Empire / First Order down. Like that's what I think the sequel trilogy needs the most new content for. But yeah, I would be down for whatever comes in the future. Still, like, it's up in the air when Rogue Squadron is going to take place, but I'm down for that to be post Episode 9.
Me too. Let's get it. The Templin Institute, shout out to Mark, asks what we think is the biggest challenge Star Wars faces as they expand the universe for both new and older fans.
Man, I messaged Mark and I was like, oh my gosh, it's an actual legitimate question. There's no snark hidden in here. And it's a good question that I like. It also says,
and where does Godzilla fit in the universe?
That's the Zillo Beast. We've done Godzilla. I think the greatest challenge is just, I don't know, maybe communicating to fans, like, or getting it through to fans that just because something is not for you doesn't mean you're not going to ever get anything for you ever again. Which, I don't know if that's a Lucasfilm problem. I just see it as a fandom problem. And, like, I get the impulse, you know, if I hear a story is coming out and I'm like, that doesn't really interest me. It's a bummer. But as someone who, like, reads everything, watches everything, there's plenty for me to enjoy. It's not always coming from the movies. So maybe that's the biggest challenge, I think, is Lucasfilm communicating, like, hey, is this what you like about Star Wars? Then, like, here are the stories for you. Instead of just being like, here's a new Star Wars movie and, like, hope you all enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And, like, to add to that, also just communicating future plans so that if nothing has come out that you've enjoyed from Star Wars thus far, maybe announcing some future plans. I know that can be a little iffy because plans can always change, but, like, give the people, like, a little snack to hold them over until something that they might actually enjoy comes out.
That is true because, like, I mean, things get announced and then directors change, and the more you know, the more chance that you'll eventually find out that, like, oh, well, that got changed or dropped or whatever, and then it feels like drama when, like, stuff like that happens all the time in the movie industry. So communication is a double-edged sword, but I also think that it would be nice to see more in the lead up of just projects we know are coming. A little more communication. Like, I thought it was funny that JJ, when he started Episode 9, shared a photo. And, like, Jon Favreau was doing that a lot for Season 1 of The Mandalorian, and they started, like, a thread of it. And then JJ did it, and we were like, ooh, we're going to get the same thing. Never shared another thing. And it's like...
one picture.
This is happening with Spider-Man right now. Like, toys are coming out and giving away, not major plot details, but, like, you know, our first look at this movie is through the toys.
Yeah. I saw a new Doctor Strange Funko Pop today.
Right. He's got a shovel. What's that about? I don't know. But I think that's a great point. It's just a little extra communication, I think, would go a long way.
I also was going to say, for both new and old fans, that just made me think of, like, if they're going to jump into, like we said earlier, like, Legends era stuff, how to deal with maybe bringing characters into canon from Legends and what they're going to do to their story to make them seem new and fun and exciting to new fans, but then keep them close enough to what the Legends fans know and love.
I'd be interested because this is something we'll have to ask our Marvel friends, because I know that a lot of times, say, Mysterio, to talk about Spider-Man again, Mysterio's story in Far From Home is very different from what it was in the comics. And as a casual fan, I knew that, but I didn't care. I was like, cool, like, this is fun. I do wonder how Marvel fans take those changes, because I think that, you know, Star Wars fans could chill out a little bit. And if you want some of these characters back, then they're probably going to be altered a little bit and just, like, relax, let it happen.
Don't tell the fans to relax. They don't like that.
All right.
Star Wars Exchange wants to know if there's too much High Republic content to keep up with.
Maybe. I mean, it's hard.
I have thoughts.
It's already hard, like, as someone who, like, this is what we do. And it's still like, oh man, it's a lot every time a new wave starts, or at least both times a new wave has begun. So, like, I would understand a person being like, it's hard to keep up with everything.
Yeah. I am not an avid book reader. Like, just reading makes me sleepy. But I do enjoy the High Republic books, the ones that I've read so far. The comics and some of, like, the short stories, and I don't, like, there was Into the Dark I still haven't read. There's just a lot out there to consume. But I will say that having only read the adult novel, almost done with the second adult novel and the young reader books, I feel like I'm getting the story. I'm getting to know the characters well enough to where I don't feel like I'm left out if I hear about something happening in the comics. It's cool to hear about stuff that does happen in the comics because you're like, oh, that's that person from the book I read, but it's not necessary. It might be a little much, but I don't know. This is like a big deal for Star Wars. This is they're calling it phases.
Yeah,
that
waves,
means it's
waves within phases.
Yeah, that means it's a big deal. So I'm gonna say, yeah, I kind of agree. It is a lot to keep up with, but rest assured that you don't have to read everything to really enjoy it and get the story.
I would agree. Me having read all the comics, all the books, I did a podcast with Eckert's Ladder just the other day, and he and Corey Loses have only read Light of the Jedi and The Rising Storm. And they loved The Rising Storm. They had, like, questions they wanted to throw at me, but they didn't feel lost or anything. So, like, if that's a concern for you, I would just say read the adult novels, prioritize that. But it also does feel like, you know, when this stuff comes out, I try to read it as fast as possible. When there are months, there's like 5 months in between the waves. So there is more time. It is more spread out. It just doesn't really feel that way when they come out immediately, because, like, you know, everyone's reading it and you don't want to get spoiled online and it becomes a concern. But yeah, I have found it to be very rewarding to read everything, but you don't have to. I would just prioritize those adult novels. I think that's going to be the main story, and everything else is just kind of like fun extras.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like it's rewarding just having read the main storyline. So, yeah, it's kind of like if a TV series did little webisodes, like the comics and the short stories are those webisodes, but you're going to get the big picture.
Although I will say that, like, Into the Dark covers some very different stuff from Light of the Jedi, and Out of the Shadows covers some very different stuff from The Rising Storm. So, I don't know, man, I would prioritize those second. Like, again, I don't think they are required reading to understand what goes on in all the adult novels. I think they do a great job of summing up what happened. And you might even be able to read, like, just the YA books if that's what you wanted. But, yeah, now I am like, there is some good stuff in the YA books.
I will say the one thing that I've noticed content-wise that I'm like, I wish they had gone into that a little bit in Light of the Jedi is the Drengir. Right.
That's something that is mentioned and you don't really see it. And then you see it in Race to Crash Point Tower. But that's mostly a comic and Into the Dark thing. So it does feel like this whole extra... That's kind of what I was getting at with Into the Dark. It feels like this whole extra subplot that maybe you don't have to know about it for The Rising Storm, but it is still this big event happening in the High Republic.
Yeah.
The answer is yes, there is a lot. And good luck.
The answer
May the
is
Force be with you.
We could do a whole Q&A on High Republic
Probably.
questions. And we probably will. Sis Nerd asks, what MCU project we're most looking forward to? Speaking of MCU earlier.
Yeah. I think it's the Eternals, just because I don't know anything about them. Oh, but Shang-Chi too. It's these are new heroes to me. So I'm excited to meet someone new. And we also love Kim's Convenience. So I am really excited for Shang-Chi.
Yeah. I would say either Multiverse of Madness or Doctor Strange 2.
That's the same thing.
Oh, okay. That's the subtitle of the movie. Okay.
Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness.
Well, then it makes sense that those are the ones that I'm looking
Either one
forward
of those.
Basically, I want more Wanda in my life. I'm going through withdrawal after WandaVision, and I don't know. I wasn't super into the first Doctor Strange, but now I'm fully invested.
Yeah, it's cool to see these movies be like these team up events, like little mini Avengers movies where maybe the series are taking more of like the character focused approach, but still Shang-Chi is like a movie with a new hero, and I'm ready to meet some new people. Like, I'm excited for Spider-Man 3, but just, the idea of something brand new to me is always fun. That's it for patron questions. If you're a patron and you didn't see your question answered here, just head over to Patreon where we left you a written response. If you're not a patron, you can learn more by following the link in the description. Just $1 a month will get you access to extra Star Wars Explained content. And just this past week, we introduced a lot of new tiers and rewards. We're going to do a book club for The Rising Storm and Race to Crash Point Tower on July 13th. We're now doing reactions for all of the new Disney Plus shows. So we just did this episode 10 of The Bad Batch, and we've got reactions for episode 9 as well. We're going to do that for everything moving forward. Behind the scenes stuff, we've got a lot of fun things planned. And behind the scenes stuff will include things like Hilo running around and messing everything up like he is today.
On to YouTube questions, Hans Mork Tophole asks if we could see what destroyed Anaxis in The Bad Batch.
I'm going to say maybe. Like, I don't think that that's a priority for the show at all, that they're going to, fill in that little gap where in the Clone Wars we see the planet, and then in Star Wars Rebels we see that it's been destroyed, or largely destroyed. So what happened in between? The fact that the Bad Batch do have a connection with that planet, I'm like, maybe. I always just figured that the bomb that was disabled in that arc eventually went off. Maybe we could see that. It would be cool to see that. I'm not expecting to see it. I'll give it like a 30% chance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we're going to see something as large scale as a planet being destroyed in The Bad Batch.
It like...
Even if it's just, the bomb going off, but it's like... I don't know how that's going to tie in with the story of the clones and Omega and Camino and...
I'll say, man, I'm not expecting it this season. And if we still don't have word if there's going to be a season 2, but it's like we only have 6 episodes left, and I feel like they're going to start tying things up rather than introducing more and more. So I'm happy with my 30% estimate.
Jedi Spartan 38 wants to know if we could see any clone commando teams in The Bad Batch.
Again, I'm not expecting it, at least not right away. I do think they would be fun villains, kind of a foil to the Bad Batch, but I also think the Bad Batch have kind of replaced squads like Delta Squad, even though they are canon. If they were to show back up, I think it would be cool if it were like in a clone rebellion. If that is going to happen, just to get like a little cameo appearance from Delta Squad. Just we see him once in the Clone Wars, we see him once in the Bad Batch. I think that would be cool, but yeah, I'm not really expecting it.
I feel like if we did see them or something like them, it would be totally rebranded for Imperial purposes, and we probably wouldn't know that was them. It might be like an inspiration for something in the show.
Yeah, I agree that like they're trying to... The clones are right now like all regs, and then there's Crosshair, and then you have your elite Imperial troopers. So I think that that's kind of what they're leaning into instead of bringing the clone commandos back.
Ethan Richards asks if Omega and Fennec's relationship could hint towards what we might see from Fennec in live action.
Didn't mean to bring this up already, but yes. I mean, Ming-Na Wen said exactly that their relationship is going to be a focus of the Book of Boba Fett. And she also said that some stuff that happens in the Bad Batch is going to inform her character in the Book of Boba Fett. So that's very vague. We don't know what that means. But yes, I think that there are going to be connections between the two series.
So she said her relationship with Omega was going to be in Book of Boba Fett?
Sorry, her relationship with Boba.
Okay. Yeah, I think we'll get to know more about that for sure. Like, especially if Boba Fett shows up in the show. I'm really hoping that he does, and we see them, like, meet and team up to do something, because that would explain why years down the road, Boba Fett finds her dying in the desert and saves her life, basically, and they team up.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see if there was a relationship before the stuff on Tatooine, and if there was, just what it was like. Were they enemies at first, and like, did Boba Fett come around, or yeah, I really want to know how all that goes.
Jesper Levels wants to know if we could see the Hutt Council in the Book of Boba Fett.
I'm gonna say maybe. The fact that they're in the War of the Bounty Hunters right now, and they're introducing some interesting looking Hutts, I'd like to see them pop up.
I really want to see a Hutt. I mean, the Hutt Council would be amazing, but yes, I think we will, and I hope we will see Hutts in the Book of Boba Fett.
I think his name is Baka or Baku or something like that in War of the Bounty Hunters. He's like Gracchus. He's like another jacked Hutt. And it's like, come on.
Give us that.
Yeah. Let me see a live action.
I want his action figure already.
Yeah. He would fit right in with the Power of the Force line, where everyone looked like He-Man. Like, I'm surprised that's not what the Jabba the Hutt action figure looked like.
All ripped.
Yeah. That's all the time we have for questions today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below, or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitch.
And as always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.